Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, class. This is Professor Coyote, welcoming you to, as promised, our new series of our brand new campaign of Europa Universalis 4. With Emperor out, I did promise that we were going to get things started here pretty soon. There's going to be a couple of caveats before we reveal what the campaign's going to be. Yes, obviously, you can already figure out what it is due to the thumbnail and probably the series title. But we'll get things going here in just a little bit. I would like to, like I said, like I was saying, I have a couple of caveats to this. The first is, what I'm playing doesn't have any achievements attached to it. It's not going to be achievement chase. It's going to be a for fun campaign with, I guess you could say, a sort of a personal goal. And then we'll go from there. So I'm going to not, this doesn't have to be Iron Man. I'm just going to play for fun. If things goof up, then I will go back and start, or save scum, or whatever. We'll see how that goes. But by and large, like I said, this is going to be for fun. I mean, I haven't played EU in a while. Like, I haven't even recorded in almost 2 years. So, there we go. It's not going to be a big issue. The second caveat is I haven't had a chance to actually mess around with Emperor. Obviously, being a very, very, very tiny Let's Player, I haven't gotten the preview copy that a lot of them have, which I'm not complaining. I'm just being honest. So, these last couple of days have been my first experience. I've been able to at least watch some good videos that explain a lot of the new mechanics, how the new mercenaries work, how the governing capacity, and the estates. So that's going to be the big ones. I can tell you this, the country we're going probably isn't going to be Catholic, so I don't have to worry about the new Catholic stuff. Who knows? Maybe if this one goes short and we have fun, maybe we'll do a battle pope. Go Kingdom of God. We'll see. If you want to see that, let me know. But the point I'm making is I'm probably going to be stumbling around in Emperor. I'll got to figure things out a little bit. I mean, we are talking about the biggest change since about Common Sense to the game. So, I hope we all have fun here. Just, I will admit, I'm not a 100% perfect expert. So, whatever. Now, that being said, we're going to see how things go. There is a hint as to where we're going in the already selected title. But, let's see. Let me just spin the globe and show off on the display. Skadoosh! As I forgot to turn off the game thing on my OBS. The caveat on that is, obviously, I couldn't do it on a windowed screen. The monitor I run does the resolution at like 3280 by 2600 or something like that. So it's very, very, very tiny if I tried running it in a windowed format, because they won't let you do it other than the native screen resolution. And as it is, I've already got this screen turned up to 250%, so my eyes don't give any sort of strain. I'm almost 40. I don't need more eye strain. But as you see from how I had it, I ran it on a native, it's like 1920 by 1080, and the only way I can do that is through full screen mode. So I gotta, whatever. I know you don't care, because you've already seen what's on the screen. This is we're going to be Cascadia. Now, what Cascadia is, for those of you not aware, is in real life, it's a semi-serious, kinda, sorta semi-independence movement that's more kind of a shared culture of the Pacific Northwest rather than actually a true independence. Oh, sure, up here in the Northwest, you'll see a bunch of flags and, and bumper stickers and slogans and stuff. But I mean, okay. To be honest, with the way that if certain if certain things happen in November, uh, then we'll see how things go. But by and large, Cascadia itself in real life is really just sort of what the Pacific Northwest of North America, that the region being British Columbia. Let's see, I think I've got here. Yeah, the region being British Columbia in Canada and Washington, Oregon in um, the U.S. It's referred to as Cascadia, which is why you see the Cascadia region, which has been in the EU game for, I don't know, ever since they revised the colonial regions. Because I think it used to be California all the way up to here, and then there was like Alaska down here. Anyway, the point being, in Emperor, they put in like half a dozen new formable nations. These are all colonial nations, so you have to actually get over there and colonize the hell out of it, and then you'll get like this little tooltip. You'll see, obviously, that says form blah nation, and then boink, you can be it. Just like forming like the 13 colonies, or well, in fact, it's a little bit even more than like say forming the 14 colonies, because whereas like say the 13 colonies or the Caribbean, those just sort of form, and you still have the kind of the option to play it, but it just sort of forms on its own. Whereas you still have to kind of, like it shows here, you have to kind of form it. See, I don't think you can expand. Oh, you can't expand it now. It'll fire up. Countries form a colonial nation. You have to have admin at least 10, not subject nation, technically, because, the colonial nation. And then it'll fire. And all that kind of happy stuff. But anyway, so there have been some new nations to play around with. Let's see. Off the top of my head, there's the West Indies, which is basically almost everything but Cuba in the Caribbean. There was actually a federation of the West Indies that existed in the 1960s. So it's kind of funny that they put this. Actually, a lot of the ones that they put in have been like modern takes, because they put in Cuba, which actually wasn't a country until the 20th century. So there's that. But then again, there's also Florida, which was sort of a country like between the Revolution and a little bit past the War of 1812, which it was only sort of a country because Spain just didn't care about it until it got just ceded over. And then there's also Vermont, which is as a formable nation, which that actually existed as a republic right after the Revolution, until they decided to just sort of pitch in and be the 13th state, kind of like Texas did. Then there's Illinois, which I have no idea. If someone can explain why Illinois is a country, I know that there's been sort of a secessionist movement for the rest of Illinois against Chicago to make Chicago its own state, but I'm not sure why Illinois was a formable country. Then there's Sonora, which is basically Baja California and a couple of the western states of Mexico. I believe there was a historical, or at least a proposed, Republic of Sonora. So that's normal. And then there is Alaska, which is formable as a new country, which, there is a secessionist movement sort of there too. And now Cascadia. We'll go over some of the stuff with Cascadia. You can see at least the traditions here. Traditionally, Cascadia, like I said, has been, at least the true, how people say, is British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon, although technically more the western sides of Washington and Oregon, because that's the more liberals have. Because the funny thing is, what most people don't realize is the liberal parts of, like, the three most liberal states are really on the coast. Like, and even not really when Oregon is concerned. Oregon's liberal side is Portland and the I-5 corridor down through about Eugene. But that also happens to be the largest population. So that's why Oregon is considered a liberal state and always votes blue, because the population outweighs. It's actually similar with Washington. The basically liberal chunk of Washington is Puget Sound. And I'm not sure, but I think it's kind of similar with Vancouver. British Columbia. That Vancouver and a little bit of Victoria. But I digress. So Cascadia is this area. What you see this dotted line here is Cascadia as an idea comes back to the 70s. There was 2 different books. One being, I think, called Ecotopia, and then an essay called things like the 9 regions of the United States. Both kind of coined this area largely due to biodiversity. That's what this dotted line represents. Is the bioregion of Cascadia, which is where the colonial group kind of mostly matches. In EU4, it kind of cuts off about like about right here, and that's Cascadia. Although sometimes actually it might go to about the Panhandle. Anyway, so that's where the whole Cascadia thing comes in. So technically, Cascadia, if it's seceded from basically just this whole dotted line, you get some of the northwest counties of California. You get almost the entirety of Idaho up to, and even a little bit of Montana. And actually, you'd cut off a bit of British Columbia, and you get like a big old chunk of Alaska. That's why in some Cascadian stuff, you might see Alaska thrown in as part of the secession movement. You might even see kind of Idaho. But if we're talking like liberal Cascadia, boy, is Idaho just the almost opposite. In fact, there's been some movements of the more conservative eastern halves of Washington and or Oregon joining Idaho when they're not trying to make their own states. Anywho, that's just a little bit of background as to why Cascadia is a formidable nation in EU4. It is clearly Paradox having some fun, throwing a few more things to make America give you some more options, even if the countries aren't exactly like wow. Nothing like, say, formidable Bavaria or Germany. But it's at least going to be something fun, and I just wanted to do something different. And of course, being in Oregon, this kind of rings for me. Now, I will say this. The one thing I have a big problem with is their flag for Cascadia. As you can see here, this is not the flag of Cascadia. The flag of Cascadia is this. It's a tricolor band of dark blue, white, and green with a Douglas fir in the middle. That's the flag of Cascadia. Now, as thing goes on, I'm going to try and see if I can like hack or temporarily edit my copy to swap the flags out. I mean, I saw DDR Jake do that when he did his Madagascar run. He swapped out the Madagascar flag for what the one he was running. So I should be able to get that going. I mean, because what this is I still have to look up where this flag comes from. But in modern usage, it's the bottom half of the British Columbia flag. The top being the Union Jack, because it shows off its British roots as Canada, and it's British Columbia. But anyway, so I'm not thrilled with this flag, but we'll see. Going through some of its Going through some of its stuff. This is how the base is. It's American or British culture. That, i.e., if the country forming Cascadia is in the British group, it'll flop over to American. Capital province is Salish, which would of course is basically just the upper parts of Seattle. It's going to roll into a republic that's Protestant and Western. And the ideas here. It's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, it's traditions of construction, morale of armies. That's nice. Um, then you get the ideas. +2 max promoted cultures, Cascadia melting pot. Um, that's because Northwest, although the Northwest nowadays, at least Seattle and Vancouver, try to be very diverse. I mean, Portland says it's diverse, but unfortunately, given Oregon's history, we're a little quite not diverse. uh, Sorry about all the not music here. Like I said, that's part of the whole thing going. Chinook jargon. This refers to a lot of the Northwest tribes have a trading language called Chinook. And so the melting pot is +2 max promoted cultures. The jargon is basically helps with colonizing the area with native uprising chance lower and assimilation up. Forts of Hudson Bay, which goes with the Hudson Bay Company, being the major interests that the British held in the Northwest, which of course is being furs of the Hudson Bay Company. The forts do fort maintenance because there's a lot of forts in this area that are very important. You get Fort Astoria and Fort Vancouver here on the Columbia River. I don't think there was a Fort Vancouver here in Vancouver, but you get a lot of HBC forts, basically all around the major rivers and such. Settling the boundaries. This refers to a fight that the U.S. and Britain had over settling the finality of the Oregon Territory. The original slogan was 5440 or fight, which actually would have been the northern part would have been here. But eventually it settled down to the 49th parallel, which is the modern boundary now. Nootka Sound trading. So you get domestic trade power because, of course, a lot of the tribes and area have had a long history of basically being one of the most economic powerhouses. It's interesting that a lot of anthropologists actually have noticed that shells and furs and flora and fauna that are native to the Northwest like spanned out amongst all the tribes of North America, pretty much, because the Northwest was big on economy and trading. So, because the Northwest tribes got a lot of fish, and there was abundance of a lot of things to make them a sedentary culture. Because as they were, unlike say some of the more nomadic tribes, the Northwestern tribes just kind of stayed where they were because the fish always came in. And the plants were always there, so they didn't need to go find it. The fish came to them. So they, as many civilizations do, when they're in a sedentary culture, they started making art and things and trade goods that other tribes wanted. So that's the Nootka Sound training. That's explaining that domestic trade power up. Nootka Sound also refers to, I believe, is the upper. It's either the upper part of Vancouver Island or this area is Nootka Sound. My geography of British Columbia isn't great, so I'm sorry, any BCers, if I botched that. The Hudson Bay Company, another merchant, and the Oregon Trail, which of course is the migration from the mid 1800s up through about the Civil War of everyone going west. I mean, obviously the Oregon Trail is the famous one, but it really branches out to Utah and California and Washington and that kind of thing. And then in the ambition, you get ship trade power. So essentially, it's a mixed bag of a lot of trading, a little bit of navy, and a little bit of you get that boost of morale to armies. But it's highly trading based. This is going to be interesting to play out. Now, being that this is a colonial formable nation, we actually have to start as something because, and we'll go to back to the flag here. Oop. so we can actually, maybe start the campaign. Now that I've dithered and talked for about 20 minutes. All right. Now, I clicked the Chinook because that is one, of course, the two. Technically, the Salish is what I should be clicking on if I was going to try to form Cascadia out of the local tribes. But that's going to be... I almost think that would be next to impossible. I mean, you got something like the Cherokee run to try and make them take over the 13 colonies. I mean, think about if anyone's ever done the No Trail to Tears achievement, which I have a long time ago. It is feckin' difficult because you start off at 1 for your technologies, and you only get to about like normal about the time that you do at least back then, you did the forced modernization by being next to a colony, which means that you've got about 150 to 200 years before colonies show up that you can then modernize. I haven't tried No Trail to Tears in the post the institutions time, though I did monkey around trying to do the sun god one, which I haven't been able to do yet. That's the one where you take Inca, or you form the Incan Empire, colonize the entirety of South America, get all the institutions, and like successfully defend yourself against the Eastern invaders. Some of that. I haven't been able to do that yet. Maybe I'll do that in the future. Excuse me. Sorry about that. My throat was starting to get a bit crackly. Now, technically, if I wanted to be 100% historically accurate, how I should go about doing it is picking England, running it through to where it starts making the 13 colonies, and then making a mad dash for the West. That means that Cascadia won't even be formed probably till about maybe like 50 years to go, because I know Cascadia is often hard to pull as a Western European country, because usually like other lands get to here first, and then like maybe I could do it as Spain or Portugal, and you know what, I'm gonna put a pin in Portugal, because Portugal of course has the powerhouse of colonization, so that's a possibility. So if my current plan doesn't work, I might try this again as Portugal. And then, of course, well, actually, if the current plan doesn't work, like I said, I'm not doing Iron Man, so I'm going to leave it up I'll leave my failure up, and then we'll try it again. But who I'm going to start off as is not Japan, because Japan will be extremely difficult, because not only do you have to win the Seiko Jidai, the Warring States period, and form Japan. Excuse me. So while Japan does have at least a geographic advantage, that you can hop off of the Ainu into the Kuriles and like hop to Alaska and then to Cascadia, what I'm going to actually do it as is we're going to try it as Korea. Now, hear me out here. Korea has, of course, the Tech 3. Yes, they're under the thumb of Ming, but, you can't get away from that. But it's that 655 with King Sejong Do-yi that I think gives it a chance to rapidly burn up the admin tech until we can get exploration. Because that's basically the ideal. Rapidly burn to exploration, then start colony hopping. With Korea, probably can make it to Sakhalin, and then, well, what I could also do is I could just take over Chukchi here, and then use that to hop over to Alaska, and then down into Cascadia. So that is basically phase 1. I guess you could say that's the true goal, is Korea up along the Ring of Fire to Cascadia and then form the country. So I guess you could say that's phase 1 and phase 2. From there, I would like to see how far we can get until endgame of 1821. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of difficulty because we'll be splitting off of Korea, so we won't have the Korean stuff. I mean, we'll have whatever Korea has at the time that I form Cascadia, but then from there, we're on our own with however much got formed. Now, of course, that means we'll still be able to colonize. So, what I really want to do is I want to try to do this with as little steps as possible to make things less difficult for when I split off of Korea, because then I don't want to have to fight Korea for all the gold in Alaska. So I might end up doing, like, say, the Aleutians, and then, like, maybe Kodiak, and see if I can hop to Cascadia region. Because, let me double check. Perfect, okay. So the Cascadia, actually, never mind. I forgot, they formed... Okay, this should actually make it a little bit easier then. That just says region, but often that seems... I'm going to look in here really quickly later. But this should theoretically mean that anything I put into Alaska becomes Cascadia. Oh, that's Rio Grande. And that's Mississippi. Okay, well, I will double check. But theoretically, anything goes to Cascadia should be able to do that. But we'll deal with that later. Anyway. So let's start as Korea, and then we can actually look at that. So normal mode. And we will finally start after 27 minutes of waffling. All right. And we are Korea. Now give me a quick second here. I got to pause. Oh, I'm still on pause. Oh, you know what? I don't even know if it's going to show me what the colonial, the regions are. You know what? Give me a quick second here. I know how I can do this. Sorry. There we go. Let's check really quickly. Colonial regions. Okay, so we got Central Cascadia. Okay, yeah. There we go. Perfect. All right. That'll make things a lot easier. Okay, we'll get back into the game. Okay, so I was right that the colonial regions end up going with the normal regions. So basically, anything that's in Alaska will just form into Cascadia. So it doesn't matter if Korea takes all the gold fields. It will belong to them after Cascadia forms. Woo! Okay. So, let's get into the game. We're going to fart around for a couple minutes, and then I'll probably put in a pin here. Because now I got to get used to things all over again. So, sorry if the mouse thing gets here. All right, there's Korean stuff. Oh, man, I haven't played Korean forever. Jeonju is our rival, so we'll set them as our rival. So, next game, we're going to actually look... I'm going to take a brief showing of how things are here in Emperor. I just want to get things started, so we can actually start the game here pretty soon. Okay, so the idea is we need to probably conquer up the coast here of the Sea of Japan. Or, I'm sorry, I think it's what, the East Sea to North Korea? All right, so, yeah, we need to basically get this chunk here, so we can make the hop. Because if we can make the hop to there, then that'll make it easier. And then we can just kind of like burn this whole area while we try to get that. Okay. All right. So Admin Tech 5. So we need to get to Admin Tech 5 as quick as possible. All right. And from there, let's put a pin in here. That way we can actually look at a lot of our opening strategy and what we're going to do. So, this is going to be obviously marked episode 0 of what I'm going to call the VivaCascadia campaign. And we will start episode number 1 next time. So I hope you join me there. I hope you have at least gotten to learn something from my rambling. I know it wasn't exactly the greatest production value, but hey, you know, we can't all be perfect. And I don't think I'm ever going to be perfect. All right. So, with that in mind, and not our plan, we will bring the proud nation of Cascadia into existence as quick as possible, because we're going to need that as soon as Spain figures out that Mexico exists. All right. And with that, class dismissed.